Welcome to Fishing with Steve D, and well, today's video we're going to talk about the difference between using braided line and fluorocarbon fishing line, and we are starting right now. We're starting off talking about braided fishing line. Now the braided fishing line is very sensitive, and there is pretty much zero stretch. It's got very little stretch, but it is very sensitive because of the thin diameter. And you can get 4-strand woven braided line, and you can get 8-strand. So the 8-strand braided line is usually used for offshore when you want to have a few more layers or interwoven layers. If you're fishing up against a lot of rocks for mangrove jacks, or if you're fishing in very snaggy territory, the 4-strand is used when you want to have a thinner line diameter, which will cut through the water and get your lure deeper in the water. So that's one of the big key factors, or one of the pros of using braided line is it's super sensitive. You can feel every bump, and I know some professional anglers can actually tell if it's rock that lure's hitting, or weed, or timber. It is that sensitive. You will be able to tell what type of structure is down there where your lure is swimming. And secondly, it cuts through the water column really much better than fluorocarbon line, and this allows to get your lure down deeper to where the fish are. And especially if you're trolling, I fished one tournament, the Australian Lure Championship, and one thing that I learned from that weekend was that my fluorocarbon line was getting down to 15 to 16 feet, but my fishing partner, buddy, his braided line was crash diving down to 32 feet. That is significantly a game changer. If you can crash dive your lure deeper in the water to where the fish are, you're going to catch more fish. Okay, so that's braided line. Okay, so let's talk about fluorocarbon line. The pros about fluorocarbon line. Fluorocarbon line is invisible to the fish when it's in the water because it's got the same light refraction index as water. So what does that mean in plain English, I hear you say? Well, it means it's totally invisible in the water. It disappears in the water, and that is really important when you're fishing high pressured lakes or rivers, or clear water lakes or rivers. So you want to be able to have that total stealth ability of invisibility, because this will allow you to catch more fish. That's why even the anglers that use braided line, they use fluorocarbon leaders because of this reason, because it gives them total invisibility when the fluorocarbon is in the water. So when you're using braided line, most anglers will cut a 1.5 rod length of fluorocarbon line. I do know a couple American anglers who actually will nicko it out black as well, and that can work in certain techniques when you're not relying too much on sight fishing. When you're relying on sight fishing, you need a fluorocarbon leader, period, even when you're using braided line. So let's just talk a bit more about this. This is the Gamma brand. I've been using the Gamma brand for well over 6, 7, maybe even 8 or so years as the Australian pro, and I believe in this product so much because it's molecularly altered. So what does that mean, molecularly altered? Well, the guys at Gamma have molecularly altered this line so it's more cells per inch compared to other fluorocarbon lines. So that means it's a lot tougher, it's a lot stronger than other fluorocarbon lines. I know most professional anglers in America that fish for big money, they will swear by gamma fluorocarbon line because they depend on it, because if they're fishing for big bucks and they depend on it, and most professional anglers will be using this brand, you know it's good. And I can tell you guys, I've been snagged up on this line. Oh my gosh, it's hard to snap off. When you snag up, it is hard to snap off. It eventually snaps, but oh my gosh, you have to really give it a really good tug, and it eventually does break, but it takes a lot of effort. So that's the beauty about using the gamma fluorocarbon line. So fluorocarbon line also sinks a lot quicker than braid, because braided line floats. And so like I mentioned before, when you got your braided line, if you're trolling and you want to get your lure deeper, it's best to use a braided line. So I usually have a second spool on my spinning reel, or I'll have a bait caster set up especially with braided line on it, and that'll be my trolling outfit. But when I'm casting, I want to have total invisibility. I want to have that toughness and that quick sinking ability when casting. So I have most of my outfits spooled up with fluorocarbon line. Okay, so let's talk about the cons, the things that are not good. So we've spoken earlier about the pros, the things that are good with the braided line and the fluorocarbon line. So now we're going to talk about the cons, the things that are bad. So we've got the braided line is not very abrasive resistant to rocks and sharp objects, and that is why most 99% of anglers will tie on a fluorocarbon leader of a rod and a half length at least, and I know some professional anglers will even put 22 foot of fluorocarbon line on their braided line if I don't want to keep tying on leaders, fluorocarbon leaders. So it's not very abrasive resistant, and that is why 99% of anglers will tie fluorocarbon leader on the end of the braid, and braid floats, fluorocarbon line sinks. Okay, so we've got the fluorocarbon line. Now let's talk about the cons, the bad things about the fluorocarbon line. Okay, I've already mentioned that when you're trolling lures, it does not crash dive as well as braid. Braid will get deeper. Like I mentioned, 32 foot compared to 16 foot is a big difference, and if your lure's not deep enough, you're not going to catch fish. Okay. But when you're casting, it's okay. Casting is a totally different ball game, and that is very, very important. Okay, so tip of the day, we're going to talk about if you're lure fishing and if you're using fluorocarbon line or whether you're using braid. Tie on a little speedy snap on the end of the line. You can get the real small sizes, and what that actually allows you to do, it eliminates you keep on tying and cutting and tying. So every time you tie a lure on, you're always cutting and you're always tying. So I have been using speedy snaps for years because it actually allows you to change your lure in seconds, and it eliminates you continually cutting and tying, which takes time and it's wasted time. So get a speedy snap, tie it on the end of the line, and you can change your lure in seconds. Now another little thing I wanted to show you is the memory test. So the memory test, what is the memory test? The memory test, by checking how much memory in your line, will tell you if it's good quality or not. So what you do, you get your thumb and you run your thumb down the line. So I'm just going to run it down there like that, and yeah, so if that corkscrews, See, it's curled a little bit, but it's not like a piggy tail. If it was a piggy tail, that means it's no good. So if it just curls that little bit like that, that means that there's not a lot of memory in it, and that is okay to use. The quality of the fluorocarbon line is very, very good. But if it really corkscrewed really severely, you know it's poor quality fluorocarbon line. So that's what a little test that I use to see if the quality of the fluorocarbon line is good or not. More so on the fluorocarbon line. You can also do it on the braid, but it's not going to. Yeah, it's not going to. Yeah, a little bit. It's not going to be as effective, so because it more so the fluorocarbon line is how to do the memory test. Okay, so I've got another tip I'm going to show you, and this one involves your lures. Now, I've got a soft plastic here, and I've got a black light. Now, this can apply on any type of lures, but what the black light does, it'll show you if your lure, your fishing lure, has got UV color. Now, UV color lures are a big craze at the moment. A lot of anglers are demanding UV colors on their lures because it catches you more fish. Fish have got UV receptors on their body, so in other words, that means they, by rights, will see the UV colors before they see any other colors. Now, there will be certain times when natural colors will also work well, but UV colors are very, very important. And you can see how the green here is just really glowing. I hope you can see that. I've got the light on. If I turn the light off, you'll obviously see it better. But just check out some of my other videos. I'll try to link up a video up the top, up in the video up here, that you'll be able to go in and have a look at my other videos where I talk about UV in depth, about soft plastics, especially sinking minnows. We've got a good range of sinking minnows. And yeah, so I hope you can see that glowing, that green there. So that'll catch you a lot more fish. And that's a tip number 2, tip of the day number 2. So it's just a blue, it's a black light, it shines like a blue, but you can pick them up in the tackle stores. That's what they look like. They got all the LED lights in there, and that will be able to tell you whether your lures, whether they're soft plastic paddle tails or whether they're sinking minnows like that. You can just shine it on there and just see if it's got UV colors on it or not. And they're only about 10 bucks. Scissors with serrated edges is a must when you're fishing with braid because it cuts it cleaner. Well, if you enjoyed this video on the difference between braided line versus fluorocarbon line, please smash your subscribe button and hit that like button so it tells YouTube to share this video to many more like-minded people. And be sure to check out my Facebook page and my shop page on all my fishing lures. These are a couple of the UV lures, soft plastic paddle tail swim baits that I've released and will be coming out shortly. But I've got a whole other range of sinking minnows. I've got jig heads, a full range of soft plastics. I've got spoons. I've got a whole range of lures there. I've got 5 vibes in a tray as well. So check out my shop. I'm Fishing with Steve D. Until next time, stay safe. God bless.